Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Music Theory Mondays. Today we're going to be discussing slash chords. We did slash chords before. It was more of an introduction to what they are on a conceptual level, but today we're actually going to take a look at a couple of them from a theoretical level to look at how they're formed and what their function is. Slash chords are nothing more than chords that have a bass note other than the root of their note. And so, to give you a quick background on that, if you're unsure, if you play a C chord, you're going to want to play a C in the bass. Alright? And that C in the bass supports the C chord. If you play an E in the bass, you're playing the third of the chord in the bass. And it creates a sense of movement. Now that's a pretty standard slash chord, putting the third or the fifth in the bass. The ones we're going to look at today are a little more involved, okay? The first one we're going to look at is an F over G. So what that means is, and I'll put this up on screen for you, we have an F chord, and we are going to play a G in the bass. Now I'm going to play an F in the bass first, just so you can compare. Here's the F. All right, now here's the G in the bass. So when you change that bass note to the G, the chord becomes a little bit unstable, a little bit unresolved. It gives you the feeling of something's about to happen. So let's break down the notes of what this slash chord is. The F chord notes are F, A, C, and then of course you have the G. Now because the G is the lowest note played, you're going to want to try to build the chord from the G using the notes that are being played up above. So we're going to call this a G9 sus 4. And so the notes of your chord in the order of the G9 sus 4 are G, which is the root, A, which is the 9, C, which is the 4, and the F, which is the 7. So the G and the F outline your G7. The A gives you that 9. And then the C is the 4, that's your sus 4. So F over G equals G9 sus 4. So you could technically use that as like an alternate 5 chord, right? A bit of a more interesting 5 chord leading back to the 1 chord. The second chord in the slash chord family that we're going to look at today is the opposite of what we just did. We're going to go with a G chord over F. So we've completely flopped ingredients here. The G chord being GBD, and then the F in the bass. Now if you play the G in the bass, it's just a G chord. Nothing too fancy. But when you drop it down and put that F in the bass, now you've got a little bit of an unstable situation. I do like it. It's definitely a good chord to use. What are we dealing with here as far as notes? Well, the G chord is GBD. But again, that F is in the bass. So now we have to craft, or rather build this chord from the F note and use all those other notes. So we have the F, the G, the B, and the D. All right, now if you take that F and put it up top, you have GBDF, which is none other than the G7 chord. All right, but we're playing that F in the bass, so the F goes from the top note to the bottom note. What's really cool about this is that the name of the chord is essentially going to remain the same. It's going to be a G7 over F because that bass note's been changed, and as a result, you have a slightly different sound to it, right? It's a little more unstable, a little more colorful. You would call that a G7 over F, which is, to be more technical, the 5 chord in third inversion, all right? And I have yet to do inversions on this channel. I will eventually get to it, but just know that your G7 chord is GBDF. And because we're starting on the F, it's considered the third inversion. The inversion meaning simply that we're rearranging the notes We're not changing the notes. The ingredients stay the same, but the order changes. And that would be the third inversion or third variation of that chord. The third and final slash chord of interest today is a G over A. So first we're going to play the G over G, right? Just the G major chord. Now let's throw in the A here. All right, again, a little bit of tension needs to be resolved. This chord is going to be known as an A minor 9 sus 4. Or you could even call it A9 sus 4, right? Because there is no third in this one. So starting from A, you have A, and then the G chord contains a B, so you have A, B. It also contains a D, and then last but not least, the G up on top. Very jazzy sounding, so we end up with the root A. That's where we get the name A9 sus 4. The 9 is the B, which is the second note played. The 7 is the G, which is why we're calling it a 9, not an add 9, because there is a 7 present. And then the 4 is the D. So we have a root, 7, 9, 4. All together, A, B, D, G for an A9 sus 4. I hope that made sense to everybody. You have 3 slash chords, varying degrees of color. And again, slash chords are very useful, both in terms of spicing up the sound without changing too much, but also you can create very interesting bass lines by changing those bass notes. I hope everybody is doing well out there. If you have any questions, comments, link them below. Like, subscribe, and as always, thanks for watching.